Why are disabled people's organisations important?
We are a strong, vibrant movement of people, and we've got to make sure that we're at the forefront of government change, of legislation change, and especially now with individualisation, personalisation, it's there because of disabled people's organisations and disabled people who weren't happy with the service, in inverted commas, of what they were getting. So we've got to make sure that we're firm in what we expect to happen to us.
Disabled people do have more rights today than they did 30 years ago, and that's as a result of disabled people being political activists, joining a social movement and campaigning for change. But there's still a long way to go. Disabled people still remain isolated in their homes. They have less opportunities for education. They're still herded into special schools, which is a form of apartheid. Less likely to get jobs, going to be economically poorer. Disabled people have less choices about who they live with, what sexual relations they have, how they can get around, particularly in a rural county. So there's huge challenges still there.
I do believe that disabled people organizations are a lifeline for many disabled people, in terms of like the support they provide, for empowerment and just basically working to change policy and make sure that it's implemented. In the short time that I have been at ALFI, I have witnessed how much the organization has really tried to influence educational policy and also continually campaigning, effortlessly campaigning to change the educational system. And I feel the inclusion of young people from a very young age is really important, in order so that we can have a more cohesive and inclusive society.
When I look at the people that I've supported as a volunteer on the peer support side, and then even on the board with people, nobody's going to stick up or fight or be an advocate for them unless you're disabled yourself. And I know recently from helping an older person who wasn't getting any night care because she'd got to the point where they don't fight back because they don't want to be a nuisance and they don't want to be bothered with it all. I think it's vital that you have disabled people and an organisation with disabled people that can help other disabled people.
We work collaboratively with the voluntary sector, business sector and statutory authorities in the district to try and inform policy development and improve services. We need to campaign more and more to try and make sure that people are included in society fully and people have choice and control over what they do, and just to give some balance as well. I mean, not just in the field of disability, but there's just this general feeling that people sit in offices deciding what people in communities and groups need, and it's always important to keep that grassroots movement feeding up.
Disabled people are at the heart of what Darlington Association on Disability is. They're the ones that make the decisions about the ethos of the organisation. I think it's very important that we have them, and we always will need them, because you've always got on the other hand people who think they know best for disabled people, and they are non-disabled people that don't live the life. They just don't understand it, and with the best will in the world and the best intentions, they cannot get it the same as disabled people making decisions for disabled people.
We've come a long way over the last sort of 30 or 40 years. Disabled people are becoming more involved in society, and there's more kind of understanding out there, but there's still a lot of misconceptions, a lot of misunderstanding, and this is where disabled people's organisations are needed, because who better to be able to advise and support than disabled people themselves. Despite legislation such as the DDA and the Equalities Act, there is still a lot of work to be done in terms of putting the legislation into practice. And again, this is where disabled people come in, that they're able to advise people on the best way to achieve what's been set out in some of the legislation that's been created. So there's still a definite role for disabled people and their organisations.
The more big problems there are in society for disabled people, as in the kind of really big issues around government strategies, around benefits, around independent living, the more important it is for disabled people to get together and campaign on those. And I think the disabled people's organisations have a key role to play in bringing people together, in sometimes in kind of taking that information and that strategy and making it accessible so that people actually understand what's being said and what's being done to them very often, and in doing it the other way as well, in getting together people's views and sending them to the relevant places.
We're here because there's a need, and we will stay here until there isn't a need. Okay, but that actually means that the whole United Kingdom needs to actually be an equal society, and we are not an equal society yet. There are pockets of good practice, but our politicians, people that hold the purse strings, still need a good kick up the backside, and we will stay there until we don't need to give them a kick up the backside anymore, because they will do the right thing, whatever the cost.
If you're reading the press and the media and following what the politicians are saying, we're heading into a complete state of economic meltdown right now. And who will lose out will be the most marginalised groups. And the most marginalised groups over and over again are disabled people. And what could happen is that if the service and the welfare state is completely deconstructed and disabled people achieve the goal of independent living but don't receive any support, they'll just be completely isolated and remain living independently in their houses with no support and no way of doing the life they want to live, living the life they want to live. So it's really important now that we have organisations who are speaking up, organisations of disabled people speaking up for disabled people, to keep that voice heard right now in the political climate that we're going through.